which is the part 3 of today's panel interview, which is Blast, ST Blast. Okay, so ST Blast is teaching your known information. Okay, you're not teaching anything new. You're teaching something that you already know and you kind of like work out in your head, or you've at least done in reality. Okay, so you either had a lot of practice with it or you rework it over and over again. And ST play is very much like step by step. Like step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. Step 4, do this. And it's very clear. So there's no, like, you don't need to use your imaginations. You know, it's not like NE land. It's actually like just perfectly clear. You know, like for example, I'll say like, I have a purple shirt. Like, okay, clearly it's purple. It's like, okay, there's no imagination there, right? So, and let's start with that. How do you use ST Blast, or how do you not use ST Blast? Because we have 3 Blast people here and 2 Blast saviors. I want to go with Heather first because she's the Blast first. So she's gonna be the queen of Blast here. Double masculine Blast, and not just double masculine Blast, but like the crackhead, like Blast play style. So it's like the ultimate Blast. So Heather, how do you experience and use Blast personally?
Yeah, I realize everything else is either a half demon or a demon. It's like, these are my saviors, you know, and doubled up on them. For me, like the job that I do as a trainer, I mean, I get to do that literally all of the time. I mean, that's what I do all the time. So, but when I set up curriculum or set up a training, I do it in a way where it's very, you know, methodical. We're going from here to here to here to here. So that I'm taking this person on a journey through the training of information understanding. A lot of what I do though, like when I get to choose what I got to actually build the curriculum for my company, is I chose a lifestyle suite. So I'm very interested in how certain things affect other things. I'm all about the mechanisms. I'm all about how is this working? Because if I can figure out how this is working, then I can figure out where this is going and kind of the origin of that. So for instance, how sugar affects mood, how exercise affects mood, how sleep affects mood. So I was able to take that. And so I love the front end of being able to explain the prevalence and the dynamics, and here's the mechanism of this and this and this. Because if I, you know, go to see someone and they say, oh, you need to do this. And I'm like, why? Like I get very rebellious. I'm like, why? Explain to me why. What's the mechanism behind it? And if I can understand the how behind it, then I'm much more inclined to be on board. So that's why I explain how exactly exercise is lifting your mood. This is what's going on underneath. This is behind the thing that's happening. And so that's what I do. It's when I get to the part of the tips, because my manager is like, maybe just put some, you know, some tips in there. And I'm like, I don't want to do that part of it. I just want to tell you all the cool stuff of how this is happening. Because to me, I see all the any possibilities. So even when I'm training and I'm talking about different quote tips, I get a little bit like, this may work for them, but not work for them. Because I'm not thinking that it's going to work for everybody when I know it's not. It's going to work in general. So I'm teaching the general principle, but it may not work for each individual person. So you need to take the information I'm giving you and you know, and apply that. It's only if I'm one-to-one and doing NT play where we might work through it together and how that would look. But in general, you know, that's the part where I'm a little bit not super directive. It's a little bit more descriptive than that. So that was a bunch of just blasting. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, it did. Thank you. I like how your explanation of your blast involve a lot of play, because I do think blast play is more engaging in general, because you're taking the audience and getting them to kind of participate and feel like, you know, it's like a cohesive thing.
Yes.
And you're giving the reasons too. So you're not just like going step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then it's boring, it's lame, and then everyone just fell asleep, right? You know, it's like you gave the reason why. And no offense, Hannah. Well, I'll ask you next.
And I've had a lot of feedback. I get evaluations literally every single training I do. I get evaluated. I get feedback on it, and they tell me what they like, don't like. So I've accumulated thousands of feedback from people, what they like and don't like. And so I know how to tailor it. A lot of times when people come into the training, if it's a small enough group, I'll ask them to introduce themselves quickly. So I'm going do. Okay, this will hit, this will hit, this will hit. And I'll literally tailor the training and bring in other things to customize it to them. So it's like, it's also an experience. You know, I do a lot of storytelling, so it's an experience as well. Because if people are excited and like it, and they get excited about it, then I move the chemicals, and it's like they're more likely to at least engage with it. So yeah, yeah.
I think it's also
Master
good.
level blast.
Yeah, master level. Yeah, you're right. Master level blast. Yeah, you set the bar. That's like the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal.
What I like about the way you explain that too is that you're getting a lot of real life experience. It's not like something that you fabricated in your head. Like you actually got the real life experience, the real life feedback, and then you're using it to improve your next talk instead of like making up a story in your head of what happened, and then doing a talk based on that. So it's very reality based.
Yeah, I'm drawing from something. It didn't matter what the training is. I can find a story or some experience that I've had and pull it in to be able to explain it. Yeah, for sure.
All right, our next savior blaster is Hannah. So I'm gonna make fun of you a little bit, okay, Hannah? So Dave and Shan makes fun of your type. They call it the douchebag type because you're like just blasting nonstop, like the sleep blast or blast sleep. Okay, you're the same animal stack as Dave, so your blast though is double feminine, so it's super interesting. So it's second in savior state, but it's double feminine. How do you blast? How do you experience blast? Personally, as a sleep blast person?
Yeah, it's for sure not as good as Heather's, I think. But what I do is, so there are several, I try to find the ST blast, where I can do the ST blast, because it feels, even though it's double feminine, I kind of feel insecure, but it's really fun for me. But I can't really tailor it to people, maybe as well as you can, Heather. So it's more descriptive, I guess. So I like explaining statistics to people that I have conducted myself. And what I really like doing is proofreading. So I find all your grammar mistakes and I reduce the text. I'm gonna make it one page if you want me to. And I really like blasting in that way because it's not directly at the person, but yeah, it's more feminine, even though you wouldn't believe how many mistakes people make. And sometimes I really get blood rage because I feel like people don't read their texts twice. So as long as that's not happening, I'm calm. But then sometimes it comes out really masculine when I get annoyed. But yeah, I just like teaching instructions in a very feminine way. And statistics is perfect for that. And also like writing reports might sound really boring, but it's really relaxing to me. Yeah. That's that. I think that's that. And also I like making Excel sheets. Give me an Excel sheet, I believe what's in the Excel sheet. I stand.
Did you say writing reports is very relaxing?
What?
Did you say writing reports is very relaxing?
Yeah, it is. But I think it's only relaxing because I have actually documented what I have been doing. So I don't do this all the time. I have feminine SI, so it kind of feels like a demon. It really feels, I get all the EP scares of all the paperwork I haven't consumed, what I have to hand in and whatnot. So that's my version of it, but I also get scared of paperwork. But if it's a big project, I have OneNote. I write down every single thing that I know I have to do, in which order, try to streamline the order. And then once I'm done, I have all the sensory, so it's really easy. And it's very easy for me to know what is redundant in a text. So that's what also makes it easy. I just like cutting out words. And I have almost a bodily feel for when there's some redundancy in a text. So report writing for that, it's perfect. And I also, at my work, we are developing a card game. And for that, you need a lot of instructions writing. And it's not that I'm so good at it, but I don't know. I just feel confident that over time, I will make really good instructions. It's not actually something I'm good at, more that I'm confident I will become better over time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question on that, Hannah? Do you feel like it has to, because I know you're savior, SF, do you feel like you had to experience or learn for yourself first before you can write that? Or do you feel like you can just,
Yes.
Okay.
No, I feel like what the blasting, it's not only about being a douchebag, even though it's also kind of true. But I feel like I have to embody the rule. So what happens is, I'm sorry if you are hearing this for the second time now, because to some people I've already explained this, but if I read a text and I have a hard time taking in the ST, but what I will do is I will restructure it. So I will find the red line of the argument, almost a TI. And then I restructure it in bullet points, and then I can take it in because it fits, it is compatible with my brain. If that makes any sense. And then, yeah, very clear to me then, but then will others understand it? I don't know. Did that answer the question? Not sure.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it makes sense because it's like I have to be in a system to be able to, you know, to really understand it, to make it more efficient, and to explain it. So it sounds like to me you figure out a way to do a system so that you can assimilate it to be able to blast it.
Yes, exactly.
Super cool.
All right, yeah, that was that's great. Like, so I guess next time anyone needs to hire an ISTJ, with like, hey, relaxing job on the floor, doing a lot of reports, very relaxing, you know. I like what you said though about the sleep blasting. Is what I find interesting about what you said earlier, is like you make it as concise as possible. So you really like try to preserve your energy even before you blast. Like it's like the most pure form. Like there's no wasted words, you know, everything is like as concise and straight to the point as possible, which is great to hear. I want to ask Natasha next how you experience ST blast. So you have blast last, but it's double masculine, so it's kind of it has an interesting twist to it. Usually when something is double masculine, even though it's fourth, you do have access to it, you can see it. How do you experience ST blast, Natasha?
So number one, I peacock it every day, being a teacher. But a few points, so I noted down. Number one, double masculine. So, and because it's a demon, I'll be like, don't make me do it, because if I have to do it, I'll be pissed off that I have to do it, and it's not going to be nice because double masculine, so Hulk syndrome. So one thing I noticed is that if I get angry at someone's incompetence for some reason, I will be really double masculine about the facts. I'll be like, you didn't do this, this on these days. These are all the facts. Like, basically be like a Karen in those moments. Also, I don't like giving ST details of my day-to-day life. Like, I will, if people ask me how my day was, I'll be like giving them the overview. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty details and tell them everything that happened step by step. That never happens. Even when I tell stories, I don't go step by step. I'll just give you like overview on top of overview. I don't like proofreading. I'm like Hannah. I do a lot of it. I worked as a translator and as an editor for a while, and I hated it. And doing anything like admin, bureaucracy, taxes, all of that is a nightmare. I'd rather outsource it if I can. Like taxes, I always outsource this to an accountant. I'd rather also cook by myself than tell people how to do the things that I want them to do. So like giving out the steps is so draining that I'd rather just do it all myself. I will cook everything by myself, even if I'm cooking like 3 or 4 different dishes at one time. Instead of telling someone, okay, you can chop the things in this manner, that means I have to actually tell them everything step by step so that they do it properly, and that's too draining. I'd rather just do it myself. Another thing I noticed, so I'm dating someone who is last as well, and something that often happens is that I will forget to communicate things like, don't touch that. And then he will forget to ask me stuff, so then we'll be like, oh, you should have asked me. Oh no, you should have told me. And that happens a lot, especially with ST stuff. But one thing I also noticed is when my ST comes out, especially when teaching and I get annoyed because the students are being too unruly, then my Hulk syndrome side comes out and my inner drill sergeant comes out, and I'll be very, very bossy, and I'll be like, if you don't stay quiet, if you don't pay attention, you're gonna get extra homework, and I'm gonna take your phone away, and I'm gonna do this, like get really bossy. But that side, like, it's a big contrast because usually I'm very, very chill, like this anecdotal, pretty chill, go with the flow. So when that happens, it's like a huge contrast.
Yeah, you put those EPs in their place. You know? uh, thanks for sharing that, Natasha, on how you use ST Blast in a swing state. And I think your point about telling your partner stuff is also very important. Like speaking up with your partner, I think that is a big problem also with relationships. Is if you don't blast your partner, that could cause like problems later on. You didn't speak up, right? So that's a good point there. Jonathan, I'm going to ask you next how you or not use ST Blast. Now, I actually watched some of your Netherlands mocking video. So I can attest that Jonathan is actually doing real blast, not like fake blast. Okay, fake blast is like a lot of people say, oh, I'm blasting, but they're just using play. Okay, that's not blast. Okay, so I saw Jonathan give some lessons in his TikToks. Dave and Shan in their video when they were typing someone, I think it was Steve Aoki or something. They said that the consume sleep versus the consume play blast last. The consume sleep blast last can actually speak better than the consume play or play consume blast last because they at least process things in their head first before they said something. While the consume play, like they just start talking and there's nothing processed, right? So it's like what is this person saying? So talk about your experience with blast personally.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I related to a lot to what Natasha actually was saying, just about Hayden talking about the info, you know, when you get home from work, how was your day? What happened during the day? Like all those things. It's just like, no, like it's just so frustrating and draining to talk about the known information. But I guess how I've noticed the missing blast in my life is like I have over the years noticed that whenever like something comes up that I have to do, like the first thing in my brain is like, do it later. Bye. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. So I have like accumulated this do it later pile in the back of my brain. And obviously, as you can tell, like it's going to build up for a while and you're going to build up a big truckload of things to do. But when it comes to stuff like you mentioned in the videos, so there's two parts to the blast. So the one thing I am proud of, and this is probably going to sound like a real peacock, is that, I mean, I think the reason why I was able to become, like, to make it so successful is because I actually did a proper blast. Like, I actually made a plan. I'm like, I need to make a whole plan that turns like my ideas into something physical. So I literally wrote down, okay, on this day, I'm going to do this. On this day, I'm going to do that. And I actually like planned out, and I created like a video every single day for 30 days in a row, because I just wanted to challenge myself. Like, if I can't do this, then I'm just going to give up. And I did it and it worked. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is what blasting is. It's like literally breaking down something you want to do into pieces and then scheduling it and doing a little bit each day. And then it builds up and grows over time. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned about blast is that, like, when I need to blast, previously I was like, okay, fuck, I just need to do everything in one go. I just need to do this thing and just get out of the way and be done with it. But it's never going to work that way, because one, it's going to drain you. You're making it a huge problem. And two, it's just probably going to be crap. It's going to be shit. It's not going to be good. So like what Hannah said, you know, when she's documenting stuff, it's like, you know, when you're building the instructions for the game, it's like that stuff takes like a long time. You start with a draft, and then you go over it, you have to refine it again and go over it again, and then you go over it again, and then you go over it again and over it again. And it's just understanding that is how you blast, and just learning to like live with it and go, okay, I need to accept that this is how you blast. You can't do it all in one go. Then I guess that's how I'm trying to do it.
It looks like you got Hannah's stamp of approval there. How you explain your blast. I think what I like about learning all this stuff is that you can use your fourth animal. It's not missing. It's there, and you can use it. You just need to practice it and understand how.
Suck at it really badly.
Yeah, yes. Suck at it first and just do it, right? Like I have blast savior, and I still suck at blasting. Like for me, like I feel like it's such a drain because like I'm using my third and fourth function. I'm like, oh my god, it's so tedious, you know. Like I'm doing it, but I'm like, like I'm drained, you know. Like so, it's definitely tough. Cynthia, you're the last one for ST Blast, and you're the one that David Chan likes to make fun of because your specific blast is the play, consume, sleep blast. Or that one. They did some classes with what's the guy's name? The guy who leaked the information about the U.S. thing. What's his name?
Snowden.
Yeah, Snowden. Yeah, Dave likes to rant about Snowden and the Imogen Deep or whatever, Imogen Heap or whatever.
Imogen Heap.
Yeah, because like what the hell is this person saying, right? Like So, how do you experience? Sorry to put you on the spot. I'm making fun of you.
That's fine.
But how do you use your blast, or how do you not use your blast, and how do you see yourself practicing it?
That class was traumatizing, by the way, but I digress. Well, I related a lot to what Jonathan said, because I think what he described was the all or nothing approach to blast. And I have that as well. I have this wrong belief that if I blast, it has to be perfect and I have to do everything at once. And I can't just do a few steps and then stop. And I think I will be a very good example, a good negative example or contrast to Heather, because she has demonstrated it very well, and I demonstrated very well that I can't do it. Because she said something like that you're describing something step by step, and you want to explain why, or you want to know why something is the case. Because if you understand the why, if you understand the steps, then you can also understand where this is going and why you should be doing this. And I think in my head, I want to do this as well, because if and when I blast, it's very clear as well. It's very step by step, very flowchart, whiteboard, Excel sheet. But because I'm not good at it, and it's very draining, and I feel very self-conscious about it, I feel like I'm holding the floor for too long. Then because that's the case, when I do it, just like right now, I'm very awkward about it. You can't really listen to me, and I feel like I have the tendency to then go all in on the explaining the step-by-step thing, and so that I over-explain to people why something is the case, and then I go into the nitty-gritty of every single step, and they will look at me and think and go, well, that's just too much information. I don't need to know everything. And I feel like I have no gauge. It's like all in or nothing with the blast. And yeah, it's just stop and go traffic all the way. And I'm not sure if you, Jonathan, experience it the same way, because you described something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I relate to like having I go into excessive details when blasting sometimes, because it's like you don't know how much to give and you don't know how much to not give. So you just kind of, yeah.
So you could dump it all out.
Yeah, just, yeah.
So basically, the consume, play, or play, consume, it's just like one big vomit, and then you just hope the person takes something in.
And that's also just the talking, speaking part of blast. But there's also the getting started, or the changing, the getting started or changing the course of action part, which is very hard, because I feel like having blast last makes you very inert. There's such a crazy amount of inertia going. So if I get going, the play will pick up, and it will then be hard for me to change course again. But there's just enormous amount of inertia, and it takes such a lot of energy to change course, or to get started, or to stop. And I think that could be the reason why there's no gauge, because I have a hard time starting, but I also have a hard time stopping. And so obviously once I get started, I won't stop. So it's all or nothing.
All right. I have some thoughts about blast. I want to bring up to you guys, and kind of see what your thoughts are on this. So Benjamin, a while back, he said this in the Facebook group, which I really like. And he said that you didn't really consume anything if you didn't organize anything. And then organize means like, you read something and then you now have notes that you organize based on the things that you consume. Now, for our type specifically, our function stack, how I see it is when we consume new information, you should be able to distill it in, like, let's say you finish reading a book, whatever is in that book, you should be able to distill it in one page. And it would be like a clear step-by-step with a specific result at the end, or specific, you know, something that will manifest in reality, okay, at the end. So that could be in finance, dating, you know, any hobbies, cooking, whatever. Whatever it is that you are into, you should, and you read a book on it, you should be able to distill it in one page. And then not only distill in one page, you should be able to blast it to someone afterwards. Like, tell them, okay, I read this book, this is what I learned, and this is how to get this X amount, this result, okay? For example, Dave Ramsey, I like Dave Ramsey as an example. He has a book called The Total Money Makeover. So, you know, for him, it's like, you know, step one, have $1,000 savings. Step two, pay off your debt, right? And it's like very clear how he does it. So like he wrote a book, and it's, you know, it's like a standard like 200, 300 page book. But actually, if you took all the lessons, you can put it in one page, you know, and everyone would get it, right? Everyone would get it. So we have a weird group here because we have blast last and we have consume last, right? So the consume last, like, where are you getting your information from? Obviously, like, Heather's play second, so she can get it from people, right? And Hannah's play third, so you can kind of get it from people. So yeah, you can get it from people, I guess. But what about the consume last people? Like, where, like how are you organizing anything that you learned? Do you actually know what you've read? You know, it's like, it's one of those things where if you can't explain what you've read, you probably don't know it as well as you think you know it in your head, you know? So what are your thoughts on that, you know, on this subject? Anyone want to chime in on this?
I can go ahead.
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed is that I learn best with languages if after consuming, I use it. So for example, with Chinese, I consume a lot. Like, I'll be looking at vocabulary all day long, but if I don't talk to people, or it could be native speakers and just exchanging information with them. And in some ways, I also do a lot of like language exchanges. So I teach them English, which is a language that is in my OI. And then I also practice blasting the information I know about Chinese with them. So it's kind of like blast and at the same time consume. It's a weird dynamic. And another thing I noticed is that if I talk to friends of mine who are interested in maybe learning a language, then I'll blast out the information I know from learning languages to them. So I wouldn't say that I will blast everything that I consume because, for example, I don't read a lot of nonfiction. I read a lot of fiction, and I don't feel like there's many lessons I can get from fiction that I could blast out in a very digested way. I can tell them like maybe the patterns I spot, but that's not blast. So for blast, I feel like if you are consuming nonfiction, it's much easier, particularly because it's ST blast. So you're going to present the facts, the step-by-step, the why. So, and it's something that is nonfiction. I feel like it's easier for me to distill it into a blast form. If it's like purely fiction consume, I can't do it. I don't know if people with blast savior can do it, but as a blast last, I find it really hard.
Well, it'll probably be boring to tell like a fictional story and then you give a report on it. Like, it's not fun anymore. But the language one for sure, 100%. I think if you study language, but you don't speak it with other people, then you're not gonna retain that language at all. Like, you're not gonna attain any mastery or even learn functional use of it. Anyone else want to chime in on this, whether you're blast last or consume last? Yes, Heather?
Yeah, I can go. I mean, I definitely think that if I've experienced something, then it's a lot easier because I am consumed last. So it's like, yeah, where am I getting my stuff? I will tell you though, that my job really has pushed me to where, like what Hannah was talking about was interesting because it sounds like she takes it and makes sure that it's refined before she puts it out there. I get it about 3/4 of the way, or at least what I think is 99% of the way. And then when I go to train it, then I start refining because I have to hear it come out of my mouth. So I do a lot of trainings out loud so I can hear it come out of my mouth because I still have to have that audience and I have an audience in front of me to try to get it to the 99%, but I still end up going back and tweaking a little bit. And so with Hannah, it sounds like she's probably a lot better about not just, she's using less words I'm probably using more, but then I'll get it faster and faster to where it gets precise. It isn't quite as quick. But as far as like when I have to do a training, like I had to do this one, I didn't even care what it was about. Like that my manager asked me, hey, we need something on palliative care. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But like 3 days later, after I've researched all of this stuff, which I actually do, I'm going to go look at all the different angles of what people say. It's just, I'm so quick to take all of this and distill it really quickly. This is what's important, this, and this. And I created this whole training, and then I'm like sharing it as if it's the most passionate thing that I'm ever passionate about. Like, you know, so it's part of it's just the selling it. But so I tend to like, I do spend a lot of time with taking in from the tribe. So I do go research, and I do have certain spots that I can trust more than others. And so I think just me having to take a full training and have it from start to finish and really refine it before I can go out there and share it has really pushed me a little bit more to be better with the consume and be cautious with putting out information that's not accurate, because I don't want to get busted on that.
Double observers with consumer last seem to be very good at consuming, especially when it's not their own stuff. That's something I've noticed. Anyway.
Thank you. That's probably it. Yeah. It's not me. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, I never thought about that, where you could get in trouble with a tribe if you make things up. So you gotta make sure that you get it right, you know. Because like, you know, if you're an IJ and you just blast, you don't really care if the tribe get mad at you. You're like, people, who cares, you know, like. And I like what Heather said about like, you can come across like the super expert, like when you have blast savior and you blast about a topic, you can even come across as more of an expert than the actual person who maybe wrote the material. If let's say they're low blast, you know, and they didn't explain it clearly, because I find it like you can hypnotize people with blast. Like if you blast with so much confidence, you can hypnotize people to
I feel like I just take from here and here and here and here, and then I put it all together, and I'll, you know, because all these people have different stuff. I go, let's take all this and put it together, and
yeah, like Tony Robbins is the best example, right? Like he stole NLP from someone. That's not his, right? You know, it was stolen, but then everyone correlates it to him, and he's like the expert of it because he's the one that, you know, made it popular, right? So,
but I feel like blast over consume wins in the short run, and consume over blast wins in the long run. And both have advantages and disadvantages, because I feel like everyone needs a bag of knowledge before they blast, and the blast over consumes, they need a small bag of knowledge and they get going. And I feel like I need a mountain of knowledge before I ever blast. And usually people will ask me about something and tell, for example, in training, they will ask me, oh, how I can see you're good at this. Can you teach me how to do it? And then I go, oh, okay, I can show you, I guess. And then they will tell me, oh, you should be a trainer. And I go, no. I really shouldn't. But I feel like because they will see, oh, she's got some knowledge inside there, some mountain of knowledge, but no one can see it. And so the blast over consumes, they get further ahead because I can never catch up. And so, but I think in the long run, if you don't want to, that's what Heather said, if you don't want to get found out, you need to do the consume to actually match and to actually have more knowledge than you teach. So it's like a balance again. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I
Does
think
that make sense? I don't know.
Well, I think from what I hear you saying, you're saying that it's more sustainable long term if you have consume over blast, because you have a wealth of materials to, it's like fuel, right? Like you have a lot of fuel to work with, you know, while the blast person might run out of, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, because obviously we never get started in the first place, so that's bad. But it's just like what Heather said, she doesn't want to get found out. She actually needs to say something that makes sense and that's actually true. And that's probably not something that I would run into, another risk that I would run, because my risk would be that I don't even teach it, because even if I know it's true. So it's both have advantages and disadvantages. It's just like the blasters, they get going and then they will run out of steam because they have no more knowledge left if they don't work on it. And I, as a blaster, I would never get started, even if I have a wealth of knowledge. And both are bad if you don't work on the demons, I guess.
Okay, I think what we'll do now is we'll wrap up the blast, but we'll still continue talking about it in part 4.